Hi, it's Cara, and I haven't done this in so long. Sit down and paint and share it with you. So I'm doing it. Okay, so this is my painting of some apple blossoms, and this is where I am. I'm going to move this a little bit so you can kind of see the whole thing. I wanted to kind of keep it close. So I've done all of the background. I mean, I may go in and fuss it a little bit. I've done the leaves, a little bit of branch, and now I'm working in on the flowers. And here's what I do with it. Here it is. Here's my reference image with all its, just a little inkjet print with all its water spots on it. That's the whole thing. So I'm looking forward to pink because of course I can't help myself. And then I have my reference image also in pieces so that I can, let's see which one is here. Here we go. So these are the two top images here. So that's what I've been looking at. Actually, not been looking at the computer too much on my iPad. I've been using these photos. And okay, so I am doing the flowers all with a combination of only 3 pigments. This is permanent rose. This is actually, I couldn't find my permanent rose this morning easily, so I'm using Daniel Smith quinacridone rose, Daniel Smith manganese blue hue, and Daniel Smith Hansa yellow medium. And these are this is where I was mixing to kind of make kind of these lavender colors, you know, just soft, lots of water. Water is also a quote-unquote color when it comes to mixing soft colors like this, because when you mix these intensely, it's like an entirely different world. But I was just earlier this evening working on these 2 other centers, and I thought I would do a little painting on this one while we were together. And so in order to do that, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that I can have you see a little more easily what I'm doing. And then I'm going to move my reference image over here. So let's see, I probably need to fold this so it doesn't cover up too much. And because what I've been noticing with this painting, for some reason, I mean, all these paintings I've done, and with this one, I'm starting to see how my brain really wants organized stuff to paint when it's kind of, especially when it's up and close like this. So if it's a little further away and it can be a little more impressionistic, I can't, I mean, I'm not so craving that. But when I'm trying to do, as I say all the time with the artists in my groups, to find a shape and paint it, I'm like a little adrift. So, let's see, what do I have now on my camera here? You can't see too much of my palette, but I'm gonna do my best. I know it gets kind of tight and then you can't see much. Let's move my water so that shadow isn't so, I'm so struggle with the whole deck setup with this. I have tried and tried to find the right information. So gosh, if anybody knows wants to help me, I would be so grateful. Just with the information, like what do I need to get? All right, but that's a story for another day. So so what I say to do, and this is what I'm going to do, is to just find a shape and paint it. And what's jumping out to me are these greens in here. So I'm going to mix a little Hansa yellow medium with a little bit of the manganese blue hue and make kind of nice soft green. If I need to dull it down, I add a little bit of the rose, maybe a little bit more of the blue. And then I'm just going to carve in. I have a pencil drawing of this, but my pencil drawing isn't being very helpful. For some reason, I'm like, what the heck did I draw? So I'm going to find that little shape. And then this is kind of a blob of green, and it's a little bit more drab. So we'll drag in a little more rose. That's light. So let's see, that's this. And I got that green way too concentrated. So this is like a darkish red. So it is kind of this shape here. I'm just going to mark it with a little bit of light green just because I'm a little tentative about finding my way through. And I was noticing this as I was painting a leaf that I'll show you when I'm done with this little demo, that for whatever reason, these pieces, these, the centers of the flower and these leaves they're just not what my brain thinks of as like leaf parts, and this is of flower parts. I've painted the centers of lots of flowers, and these are kind of disorganized and strange, and like I don't quite know what to do with it. So I've got some greens kind of marked out, and that's fairly light. Let's see, that's this petal. That's this petal, which I'm seeing it wants to have a little more blue on it, but I'll do that later. And then this kind of funny shape here is in here, and this is kind of green and peach. So I'll do, I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly like this, but this is exactly how I find my way through my paintings. And then there's kind of a blue-gray that's in here. It just kind of looks sort of messy, almost muddy, almost dirty. And I'm just going to kind of dabble my way through with this kind of shadowy color. It's a mixture of all three. There's a little bit of it over there. And then I'm going to come back and soften a little bit of this. And this kind of travels up. I will soften this a little. I mean, it's gonna look like not much for a little bit. I'm just gonna have to trust that I'll find my way. I think that's too strong. I don't want to put these real strong things in right away. I'm gonna save those to be like little accents. So this though is a little bit stronger of a kind of reddish, not really purpley red, but a little more orange red. And what ends up happening when I paint this way is that it just sort of comes together. I just trust that what I'm doing is something, not that it's right, but that it's something. And I'll respond to it. If I don't like it, I'll do my best to lift it up. That's a little dark spot right there, and it comes around with this, and I got this green right here too strongly, so I'm going to see what I can do to lift it up. So what I'm painting with here is number 8 Silver Black Velvet. This is a new paint brush to me, and I am completely in love with it. I just love how it holds water. It has a really nice tip. It's a little tapered, but it still has a decent belly. This is a Princeton Snap with a little handle thing that you can put on a pencil or a pen. For some reason it ended up on this brush. It's a size 6, and it is beat to hell. Oh my God. This is because I use it for this kind of stuff. Super inexpensive brush. They have a nice, lovely tip on them when they're brand new. And this one, and you can see, I can just take that paint right back up and blot it away. Depending on what's going on next, I may or may not want to put down paint, but I'm going to trust that I can. And this is, again, a little bit kind of a peachy pink in there. So I'm going to paint that in. It needs to get definitely toned down as I go forward. But let's see what happens if I mix myself a little bit of kind of a darkish muted green, and I want it to be a little bit on the concentrated side, and I'm going to kind of work it in here a little bit to just give myself a little bit of that nook and cranny of this I don't know, flower part, whatever the heck it is. And I'll put that up in there too, because that's where that little guy is, and I think they kind of connect a little bit there. So this needs to be a little bit pinker. I mean, as I paint and I do this, I see, like, oh, this needs to go there. My to-do list tracker in my head is very busy. doing what it's doing. I think I'm going to put a little more yellow, a little more red, kind of make it a brownish color. And this is going to go right next to this here. That's a little dry. I want it to be concentrated so that it'll stay a little bit dark, but I don't want it dry. I definitely want it fluid. I'm not a dry brush painter. There's a little bit of that brownishness over there. And then add a little more green and a little more yellow because it's kind of like an olivey green. It's got this as a little fluid, but we'll give it a go. Okay, so that is at the top of this shape, and it's where these guys come down in, and I'm going to call this down a little further in here like that. So that's this dark right here. And there's a light spot there, and I want to preserve that. It looks like this is a green that kind of comes up and it goes fairly far up. I wonder if that's what this is. Why not? We'll just make it that. Kind of bends a little bit like a little finger bent at the top knuckle. I don't like that. Too thick there. Move that back. So there's my light spot. And now this over here, it's, you have to really break it down. You know, there's like a tannish, like almost like a, what you would think of as like a yellow ochre color over there. And it has a soft edge there. Kind of points back that way, ish. Everything's ish with these centers. This is looking a little strong. That's this little teeny thing here. So I'm just going to run my brush on either side of it and kind of just erode that edge a little bit. This is too strong in there. And now I've kind of lost it, but I can go back in and do it later. I want this to be more intense. Oh, and then this green here. See, my mind's going everywhere. Oh, I see this. I see this. So it's funny. You get kind of like acquainted with the world. I first look at this and think, what? And then I start really focusing in on it and looking at it, and I can tell that it's, I just, like, I start to get to know it like a physical terrain that I might be walking or something. Okay, I'm going to make a little darker green, a little more red in here. And make this a little more concentrated. It's a little dark on that end of that. While I have it on my brush, put a little tiny bit more red in it. And drag it over here where there's a little dark part here. This wants to be softened. And this wants to be blended in, aka softened. And this is really wanting just the lightest little bit. A little more brownishness there, whatever that little funny thing is. I use that brown, go get another little bit of blue to add to it in here. Oh, and then this olivey green here kind of travels over here and up a little, couple spots. It's not looking like much yet, but it, I just have to be patient and keep at it until it starts to look like something. I can pull back also if I am feeling like, okay, I need to step back and see what's going on. That looked too much of a straight line, so I had to take that away. All right, some of this kind of grayish stuff here. Come back over here and make a little definition as kind of a gray-green in there. what's this? This is like a straight line, and some of it's there, but I'll just pull this up into here a little bit around this. This is too light. It wants to be a little bit more of this pale blue violet. Oh, there's definitely a little bit of red in here. Too much. Lift that back up. This petal comes down here, and this is very light right there, but it's got the tiniest bit of kind of yellow in it. I have a yellow tone, so I'll just paint a little yellow there and see what wants to happen to that later. All right, I think it's time to put those little red marks in. I need a little something to hang my hat on here in this area over here to the left. Although that's a little wet, so let's start them here. So I'm painting a little bit of that, and there's another one kind of next to it, but that it's shorter. And then the one next to that is a little bit more muted, so I'll mix the color slightly. It wants to be a little more brown, which means more yellow. And that comes off of this light yellow spot that I just painted here, and so it's just kind of that shape there. All right, now I'm going to take my brush and clean it off and get a little bit of the extra water off and just kind of see if I can attach these to the petal so they don't look so straight painted on. Just soften them a little bit. And they're a little too strong, a little too red, so they want a little green over them because that's what will neutralize them. Like a little kind of a gray green. And just kind of tap that in a little bit. I want to do a little bit yellow in this one, along with that gray green. A little strong. This one wants to be broken. I'll just split that a little. Such a linear brain. It wants to draw lines everywhere with my brush. It's not exactly that, is it? I'll just make this go off to the edge with a little green, and that'll be a little more interesting. Oh, okay. We'll do that later when that's drier. So let's see, where do I want to go? This is just looking like a whole lot of nothing. But that's what I'm looking at. That's the reference image. So this is a little bit of kind of little petal, little pinkishness there. And now anything here that is not this light spot or that one needs to have some amount of paint on it. It needs to be some yellow in here, even though it really isn't there. The one next door over here has lots of yellow in it, so I'll just because I'm in charge. Nobody else is in charge of these brushes but me, so I get to do whatever I want. And it's going to say that there's a little bit of definition there, just because it seems to need it. So a little bit of shadow down in there. This is a light spot. I want that to go away with a little of this. I'm not really wanting to use the gray. I'm mixing a green gray. So now over in here, I'm just going to kind of follow what I already have in the way of, you know, darks and lights and definition. Put a little bit of this green gray in and make that not look too much like the golden arches. Oh, my brain. And gray up this little bit, this little thing a little bit rather. And there's a little purple in here. A little bit more shadow around that little curve. Gonna add a little green to this just to keep it from being too pristine, because this is not a pristine center of a flower. It looks a little mucky. Kind of a blue-gray in here, on the side of this little guy here, and a little bit down in here too. Like definitely this little green thing, whatever the heck it is definitely underneath this light pink thing. So I'll just tap a little paint on either side of that. All right, so what's happening here? Well, this thing looks way too fat compared to what's going on over here. Maybe I can just make it a little more narrow on this left upper side. With my trusty Princeton snap. Shape, shape, color, I say, and that was a shape problem. Too fat. This is kind of a narrow thing here. So now what am I going to do there? I'm gonna have to fill it in because it's not really following the lines anymore. So I'll just put a little of that lavender there, and now that's not at all defined, but I'll come back and do it in a bit once that's dry. Fortunately, there's other places I can go. And this light guy here, there's a little bit of lavender gray, kind of a pinky lavender gray up in here. We'll just say that's this petal up here going up. Put a little shadow and soften that up. It's not even really here, but that's okay. I'm just going to make it up that it is there. All right, this reddish thing here comes in here. Needs to be darker. Yeah, the thing about mixing all your colors is if you want to swish your brush in a little tiny bit of concentrated paint, sometimes I find myself mixing the paints, a few colors here and there, and then letting them dry on my palette. Like that could be dry, and then I have a little bit of dry paint that I can use to do more little concentrated spots. Oh, I don't like that at all. It doesn't look at all like the quinacridone rose is totally going to stain, but if I scrub this up enough, it'll be just kind of a underlying little pink bit, and it'll could look like it's part of the petal. Okay, so all right. I think what I'm going to do is, before I post this video, is I'm going to finish this off, but let's just at least take a little bit of distance from it. I'm going to pull my palette away and zoom the camera back out and take a look at it as compared to this. It's kind of looking like that. It's kind of looking like what I'm looking at as I'm painting. And then within the scope of the whole painting, it's, well, the brain kind of does what it does. I think it needs a little more definition. It definitely needs a little more darks. I need to redefine this little piece in here that I lifted, and those little kind of accent pieces over there. This needs to be softened right here. But there you are. So thanks for playing with me. Until next time, and happy painting. Hello, last night I did a video for you, and this is what it looks like this morning. I darkened, I clarified, I actually lifted and reestablished, and it's not exactly like the photo, but it's close. It's close enough to say I'm good. And now here is the overall piece. I think it's good. I think that it looks like this blossom on the right, the center. It does look like it's tucked in behind. And I've got more to do, as you can see, more flowers to come. I'll share with you as I go. All right. Thanks for being with me. Bye-bye.